And so right now, let's talk about performing arts. And so once again, I am Romana Diana Castillo, your online learning coordinator for today's CPAR class. And once again, we are going to be talking about performing arts now. So objectives for today, we are going to talk about music, dance, theater, and cinema. Once again, our objectives for today, you will learn about what is music, what is dance, what is theater or stage plays, and then cinema. So for today's class, we are just going to talk about uh, their simple explanations, their basics, because in the next lessons, we are going to go deeper what they are. Okay. So first, let's talk about music. Of course, music is everywhere. You hear it everywhere. And also sound is pretty much everywhere, but not every sound is actually music. We all know that noise and also music is different from each other. And so the noise that we consider as art, we call that music. So when we say music, music is the art of arranging sounds in rhythmic succession and generally in combination. So that's why we do have the G clef, whole note, half note, and etc. etc. So we all have those uh, kinds of notes, and then we arrange them on um, a musical book, for example. So melody results from this consequence and harmony from the combinations. Music is both a creative and a performing art. These common forms are song, march, fugue, sonata, suite, fantasy, concerto, and symphony. Music is the organization of sound through a musical composition, sometimes aided by musical instruments. Music is an important part of our lives and has been an important part of every civilization known to man. So, music is very much important in our lives. So, before modern times, music is already present in our lives. We always sing, we always dance with music. So, with all art, it's actually the most basic performing art we have. So, sound is the first input we receive at birth. A child quickly learns to relate certain sounds to specific occurrences. For example, he learns to recognize his mother's voice and associate it with warmth, nourishment, and nurture, even if he is still ignorant of words. Now let's talk about elements of music. With melody, it is the orderly succession of tones or musical sounds. Okay? So those are what you see on the musical compositions we have. Then pitch, it is the highness or lowness of a tonal sound. Then tonality, it is the key or tonal center. Duration, the length of time the vibration is sustained. Okay, it is the vibration of one note. It is the length of time, how long it actually lasts. Okay, and then in tempo, in music, it determines the speed of the beats in measure. their duration in actual time, music may move at a fast, moderate, or slow speed and in varying degrees. Then harmony, it is the simultaneous sounding of two or more tones. So once again, let's talk about tempo. Once again, it is the speed of a piece of music. So most of these are actually Italian. So with largo, we say very slow. With presto, we say very fast. Andante, at a walking pace. Allegro, quickly and bright or march tempo. And then moderato, it does mean moderately. So when you hear a pianist or maybe voice coach or any who does work professionally in music, they would always speak this um, musical uh, words for you to understand what you have to do when, for example, you are tasked to speak and you are in a practice room. They would say, if you have to speak, if you have to sing slow, they would just say largo, presto, andante, allegro, or moderato. Then harmony, once again, it is the two or more pitches sounding at the same time to produce a chord and progression. Harmony can create many moods and textures by creating chords based on scale. So this is an example of a musical scale. So we don't just have what we say as the G clef, we also have the F clef. So it's pretty much difficult to draw it on computer though, but I'll try to draw the F clef here. Okay. And we do have the two dots here. So this is the G clef. And we do have the whole notes here. And this is an example of an F clef. Okay? So harmony can create many moods and textures by creating chords based on scales. So the two most used scales are major and minor. So when we say major, you are generally happy sounding and give it the notes give a brighter mood than minor, or most likely sad sounding and give a melancholy mood. Then, of course, if we do have music, we do have dance. The reason why we talked first about music, because without music, we won't actually be able to dance with something. We usually dance with accompaniment of music. And so the dance we have here on the picture is the nikling. We all know that in uh, Filipino culture, okay, tinikling is very important. And also, uh, tinikling is actually very important in our Muslim culture. So as you can see here, the culture they actually show is actually Muslim. So dance is the movement of the body in a rhythmic way, which usually has music. Dance can be for expressing ideas or emotions, releasing energy, or just taking delight in the movement. So it doesn't mean that you actually move, it's actually a dance already. For it to be considered a dance, you have to move rhythmically and you are following what we say as correct choreography. Okay? So, even so, dance is still a very powerful impulse. But for dance, once again, to become art, it needs to have two concepts. One is the powerful impulse, and the other is that impulse to be channeled into a skillfully choreographed set of movements. We all know that when we are dancing, we are also memorizing steps. That's what we say as choreography. Okay, now let's talk about the elements of dance. First, the theme. What are you actually going to dance? Is it modern? Is it traditional? Is it a Filipino dance? Okay, those are examples of dance themes. Then design, planned organization, pattern of movement, then movement, action of dancers, then choreography, organization of dance following steps and movement, then technique, skill in executing a movement. So are you going to use ballet, hip hop, ballroom, then music? It motivates the movement of the dancers. Then costume and properties. So as you can see, when we are watching ballroom dancers, they usually have uh different sets of what they have to wear. When we are watching those dancers playing traditional dances, they are trying to use different costumes that uh, shows the culture of a country. For example, Filipino dances, they usually wear Filipino dances. For example, they're going to uh, dance Cariñosa, they are going to use barong and barot saya. And then hip hop, they are just wearing a t-shirt and shorts. And then with ballroom, they are usually using very sexy costumes. Okay, so those are examples of costume and properties. And then scenery, setting or background. Are they okay with just a simple backdrop of uh, just the set provided to them, or are they going to actually bring something else to showcase the dance? Because sometimes some dances actually are uh, not just dances, they are usually plays as well. They just don't talk, they are also showing a story. For example, tinikling. So those are the elements of dance. Now, we are now done talking about music and also dance. Those are actually basics of performing arts. So for you to be able to master theater or drama, you also have to at least have basics of music and also dance. Because in theater, if you have already watched theater or what we say as drama or uh, stage plays, we have different kinds of um, stage plays. There are stories that they have to actually sing. They don't just say their own lines or what we say as scripts. They have to sing and also dance. That's what we say as theater or drama. And most of the time when we say theater or drama, they are playing live in front of an audience. They are singing live. They can have what we say as they have mics or so mics, and then when we say opera, they actually have to speak or sing loudly without a mic. When we say opera, that's what it is. Okay, so the picture that I used here is from PETA. Okay, they are playing Rock of Ages here. Okay, now let's differentiate first tragedy versus comedy. So if you have already passed through William Shakespeare, you will actually meet these two words, tragedy and also comedy. Since, as you can remember, if there are already some people who already told you about this, theater actually became very popular in uh, the first Elizabethan era. And the golden age of what we say of stage plays was at the time of Shakespeare uh, during Queen Elizabeth the First. So when we say tragedy, it's actually a sad story. It's usually about a noble man suddenly falling down. So it always ends sadly. It's very an epic uh, adventure, just like Romeo and Juliet. And then when we say comedy, it definitely ends happily. But in stage plays, uh, it's different from what we say as comedy we all know now. Since the comedy we all know now was satirical, but then in stage plays, it is very different. For instance, with comedy, it just ends happily. Whenever a story ends happily, it is considered as comedy. And then tragedy is pretty much deeper than comedy, but they are both can be deep. It depends on their uh genre. It's just that tragedy is deeper than comedy. Okay. Once again, two types of theater. We do have tragedy. We are talking about tragic heroes here. Then it was popularized by Shakespeare. It always and sadly, it is based on human suffering and mainly the terrible or sorrowful events that befall a main character. An example of a stage play or stage play in the Philippines that we can uh, see here is No Limitang Here and also El Filibusterismo. Yes, those two books created by Jose Rizal are also stage plays here in the Philippines. And then um other types or other theater stage plays internationally, we do have Les Miserables, we do have um Hamlet. So those are tragedies. Then we do have comedy, light or humorous tone that depicts amusing incidents and in which the characters ultimately triumph. It is a stage play with a happy ending. An example of this comedy is Merchant of Venice. Now let's talk about other types of theater. First, we do have musical theater. So it has singing and dancing. So when we say musical theater, if you have already watched uh, High School Musical before, so it is an example of musical theater. All the lines in a musical theater, for example, Phantom of the Opera, when you watch a musical theater, you will observe there that all their lines are sung. So that's an example of musical theater. Once again, when all the lines are sung, it is an example of musical theater. Then theater of the absurd, it seeks to represent the absurdity of human existence in a meaningless universe by bizarre or fantastic means. And then street theater, performance in outdoor public spaces without a paying audience. Then puppetry, of course, it is the manipulation of puppets. Then Zarzuela or Zarzuela, it is a musical play from the Philippines in 1 or 3 acts, which features typical Filipino characters and situations within the framework of a romantic love story. Now let's talk about basic elements of drama. First, like literature, as you can see when we say theater arts, it is actually a dramatic literature. Okay? So just like with stories, these things are very important in drama. First, thought, theme, ideas. The theme contains the meaning of the play. This is mostly the abstract issues and feelings that grow out of the dramatic action of the characters. Sometimes this is straightforwardly stated in the title, or it may be inserted into the dialogue of a character. So, for example, the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. So, we already know the theme. It is the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, then next, action or plot. So even in literature or stories, short stories, plot is the most important part of a drama. Okay? It is actually the events happening inside a story. Or in a drama, it is the arrangement of action and movement in the play. The action and movement in the play begin from the initial complication through rising action, climax, and falling action to resolution. So as you can see here, initial complication, rising action, climax, and falling action to resolution, those are the basic elements of a short story. Okay? Then, characters. These are the people presented in the play that are involved in developing the plot. So when you are going to create your own story, your own drama, or what we say as theater play, of course, we do have the characters or the cast of a stage play. Each character should have his own distinct personality, age, appearance, beliefs, socioeconomic background, and language. Then, language and dialogue delivered by the characters move the plot and action along. They provide explanation and define the distinct characters. Each playwright can create their own specific style in their relationship to language choices that they use in establishing character and dialogue. So maybe you're asking, how do I create uh, a good character if we are just writing through script or what they just have to say? And so, unlike with books that you can explain who they are, you have to place who they are by how they actually speak. That's how you develop your characters with their own dialogues. You have to make sure that they also develop if ever you are going to write your own theater play in the future. You have to make sure that their color, their characters are all inside your script. So when we say a script writer in a drama, we actually call them playwrights. Next, of course, music. So this is very important, most especially in musical plays, and also background music. So yes, in stage plays, music or background music is also very important. So music can expand to all sound effects, the actors' voices, songs, and instrumental music played as underscore in a play. There is a need for the composers and lyricists to work hand in hand with the playwright to strengthen the themes and ideas of the play. This element enables the characters to relate with the audience through lyrics and music. Then, spectacle. The spectacle in the theater involves all the visual elements of the play, all of the aspects of scenery, costumes, and special effects in production. These include the qualities determined by the playwright that create the world and atmosphere of the play for the audience eye. Now let's talk about cinema. So these are two examples of what I consider as good cinema. We do have General Luna and also Goyo, ang Batang General. So I recommend you to watch these two historical fictions we have, or what we say as historical documentary. Okay. These are both created independently. So yes, by indie productions. Now, so we're done talking about theater arts. So as far as you can remember, I said earlier with theater arts, the actors are moving and playing their characters live in an audience. Of course, when we say film, it is a recorded video or a recorded story, and they are using camera for it. So film, once again, is a story or event recorded by a camera as a set of moving images. And so in today's age, of course, those cameras are very powerful now. Okay? And so cinema is the production of films as an art or industry. It is an act presentation in lights that made picture possible to appear on a two-dimensional surface. This art form is governed by drama, but unlike theater, it is not presented in live medium, although it is experienced by live audience. So let's just delve in history, a bit of history of film. So uh before the colored images we have now, film before we just have the black and white. Okay, colored images before we don't have the colored images, we just have black and white pictures before when films pretty much started. So, and also film was had just started back in the 20th century. So film is pretty much younger than theater arts, since theater arts has been there for a very long time now. Then film is more mass produced, unlike with theater arts now, since it's difficult, pretty much difficult to mass produce live um live theater. Now let's talk about elements of cinema. So like theater arts, we do have the actors. Okay? So actors mean the people who act portraying a particular role that is presented in film. Their portrayal of an imaginary character motivated the audience to emotionally be involved in the story. And then, director, this person is the life of the film. He or she is considered the key person in the film making, and he or she calls the shots. He or she is responsible in bringing out the best and worst from his actors, staff, and other members of his or her staff. Logically, the director has three main jobs: to direct the actors on how to deliver a particular line with different levels of emotions, to direct the movements of the limited boundaries of space, and to decide as to what shift and angle the camera will take. Anyway, the director actually has one of the most important roles in cinema. So the reason why I say it, maybe we can already consider the actor is already very good. He passed the auditions. He was able to bring the script to life. But then the director has the responsibility to bring out the actors uh, very, very best. For example, maybe the actor is already good, but for the actor to actually motivate himself to, for example, change a bit of his style, it is the director's responsibility to tell the actor what he actually wants the actor to do. The actor won't immediately do because we all have our own set of styles how we actually act. But then, for the sake of the film, maybe the actor's style isn't what the director wanted to do for the film to be successful and for the film to be uh good in the eyes of the director, and for the sake of the film itself, the director has to talk to the actor how he or she wants the actor to move. Okay, so next is the script. The script is the very story itself, to be given treatment by the director and given life by the actors. The subject of the play may also be taken from the script. So yes, script writers are very important inside the cinema as well. So before the actors and the directors actually uh, be hired, most of the time the producers hire script writers first, or maybe the director also writes the script. So before they actually call actors, do casting calls, they have to complete the script first. And the creation of the script is actually one of the longest parts of creating a cinema. So maybe you're asking why. For example, a story takes very long to be created. You were waiting for 2 years and it hasn't yet shown. They are still making the script, okay? Before they do casting calls and ask popular actors or do, for example, choose actors that are not that known, the script is going to be produced more since the script is the story itself. Okay? Then, sound and voice. The voice in film is the natural voice of the actors captured and recorded. The voices produced by the actors make the story more convincing. The audience could readily connect with the story by the voice used by the actors. The audience could easily visualize the actors as sexy, funny, sad, strict, or lovely by their voice. We can definitely recognize the actor's voice whenever we hear them. They all have their own style, so most actors actually practice how they actually speak in front of the audience. Then, cinematography. Cinematog- Cinematography is defined as picture in motion. Cinematography turns the film from a flat surface to a three-dimensional setting because of the movements the actors make. Anything that is seen on the screen in any given moment is a part of a cinematography. So whenever you're watching, for example, Hollywood films, Korean drama, Japanese drama, or maybe Filipino dramas, every scene out there is what we call as cinematography. Picture by picture, okay? Those are what we call as cinematography. So whenever you stop, for example, you stop a video and then you try to observe the whole thing, it turns into just a picture when you stop them. So cinematography is once again a picture in motion. So for example, for you to be good in cinematography, you have to be very good in holding a camera. Okay? So yes, the person who has the responsibility to do this cinematography is the film director. And of course, the director who also directs the actors has a responsibility on that as well. Then, camera shots. The camera is the sole medium to see a film into completion. The camera is believed to be a means of expressing personal comments and a definite point of view by its position, angle movement, and even focus. So maybe the camera shot could be just in third point of view where the cameraman is actually out of the story, or maybe the camera, if you have watched some shows that makes as if the whole story is a game wherein they do a first person point of view camera shots. For example, it's usually used for action stories, the first person point of view wherein they try to make it look as if you're just playing a game. Okay. So those are examples of camera shots. So, and also with camera shots, it can be shot from above, below, left or right. And also the camera shot could have something, for example, blurred shots or very clear shots. Okay. redeeming value. So aside from its aesthetic significance, the purpose of art is to make man a better person and refined. From this context, it is not too much to say that aesthetic value must give away to moral value. It should be emphasized here that no matter how beautifully and aesthetically done a film is, if it doesn't inspire the audience in making them better persons, a film is still a failure. If they are not, if the audience was not inspired, a film is considered a failure. The music, like theater, music has the power to make the heart of the audience bleed with pity, leap with joy, and shout with anger. The theme song of the film will set the mood and illusion in a film. Music touches the audience and would make the spectators cry, laugh with the actors, antics, hate the villain so much, angry with the misfortunes of the actors, fall in love with the characters, and gain inspiration from the protagonists. The film may become more memorable and enjoyable because of its music. Now, last, CGI or computer generated imagery. So, yes, in today's age, CGI is very important, especially with historical fictions and also fantasy. So if you have watched Voltes 5 before, they highly use this CGI or computer generated imagery. So most actors who act around science fiction have to act around a studio like this one. So what is computer generated imagery? Computer generated imagery is a specific technology or application of computer graphics for creating or improving images in art, printed media, simulators, videos, and video games. These images are either static or dynamic. CGI is the creation of still or animated visual content with imaging software. CGI is used to produce images for many purposes, including visual art, advertising, anatomical modeling, architectural design, engineering, television shows, video game art, and film special effects, as well as augmented reality and virtual reality applications. And that's all for today. So, do you have any other questions regarding today's lesson?